Welcome to The Guide at Fish North Georgia. Brought to you by these fine sponsors. Spro, working with America's best anglers to design the world's finest fishing tackle. Nichols Lures, handcrafted to perfection. Georgia Blade, makers of premium fishing lures for over 3 decades and home to the Georgia Jig. Crypto Bass, tournament grade, Georgia made. And be sure to visit fishnorthgeorgia.com. Now here's Josh Little.
What's up, guys? Joshua Little here with Fish North Georgia, the Guide, and I wanted to talk to you a minute about fishing Lake Allatoona recently. Just went out this week. We are in the first week of February. I put in at Gatewood and made my way back to McCaskey Creek, but what I was really looking for was kind of the key areas that I felt that the bait fish would be kind of stacking up in, or if there was any back in the further parts of the creeks, or if they're out on some of those points as you're going back to McCaskey. And when I first put in, water temp was right at 47, 48 right there at the boat ramp. But as you continue to make your way back to McCaskey, it got down to about 43 to 44 degrees. As I was making my way around the island back towards McCaskey, that's where I started noticing the first amount of bait that was stacked up. And there wasn't massive balls, it was just kind of smaller balls of bait swimming around. And as I got further back into the creek, I started seeing the bait balls getting a little bit larger and then just more of them. As you get through the initial turns and it kind of gets narrow going back to McCaskey, and some of those transitions from that anywhere from about 12 to about 25 foot range, they were sitting just off of that right in the ditch, right around 35 to about 45 feet. One of the things that I was actually using is just a standard jig and spoon. Now, this has got just a little bit of flash on it. I like to throw it on a medium heavy with 14-pound fluorocarbon. The jig and spoon, the reason I like that a little bit better than a flutter spoon is just because I like how it gets down there in front of the fish a lot faster. One of the other baits that you can throw, that if you're just trolling or if you're casting it out there, a lot of people like to troll it because they don't like to cast it a lot, and that's going to be an umbrella rig. This right here is the Picasso. This is their junior size. It's not the finesse. You have the classic, you've got the junior, and then you have the finesse series. I like the junior size. For me, it's just kind of the perfect setup. I like to throw it with an 1/8 ounce head, and the head is actually the V-Lock by Fish Head. And what I'll do is I'll run 3.3 inch Kitex on the outside, and then I'll run a 3.8 in the center, and I'll also change up the color a little bit on the center to kind of get it to imitate what you would normally see in the water. I'm throwing that on a 711 heavy rod with a 25-pound big game Berkeley, and that's a monofilament line. That's what I like to throw it on, or even if I'm trolling, that's what I'll use. And that's where I caught fish, right in the ditches. But as I got further back into the creek channel, back in the back in McCaskey, the water got a lot dirtier, and then of course it gets a lot shallower with the drawdown that we're in, so it's going to make it really hard for some of the bigger boats to get back in the back. The biggest thing that I noticed is that as I got further back in the creek, there were no fish back there as far as any bait fish running around. So most of your bait fish were actually before you get to the McCaskey boat ramp in that there's a buoy right there in the center as you make that last turn headed towards McCaskey's boat ramp, and they were schooled up right there. And what they'll do is, if you are throwing a jig and spoon, I'll drop it down directly on top of them, just jig it up and down right in front of their faces. Most of the time when you catch one or two, sometimes you catch a couple more, what they're going to do is they're just kind of going to move around. They're going to move to a different area inside of that channel. And that's one thing that I can say is that if you stay in the channel, that's where you're going to see these fish, and they're kind of just circle those areas. So you could idle around, get on top of them, find them, drop a spoon down, catch a couple of them, and then move over. Find them again, do the same thing. One of the other things that I decided to do was to move back in some of these smaller pockets that were just right off of the channel to see if there were any fish back there. And I was able to catch them with the Spro McStick 95 jerkbait. I'm throwing it on a medium rod with 12-pound line. And it's one of those that it's a smaller jerkbait. Being the 95 series, you can throw the 110, but I feel like most of the time when you see the fish that they're spitting up, I mean, they're 2 inches, 3 inches, and that just kind of covers it. I really like the action of the Spro. Now, of course, you've got your other jerkbaits that you can throw pretty much just about anything that's kind of matching that profile and size, you're going to catch them. But what I noticed is you'd catch 1 or 2 back there in those little pockets, and there were smaller pockets that were just kind of kicked back. And I think what they're doing is they're transitioning up there. They'll feed a little bit and then come back and kind of move back and forth. What they're doing is they're getting out of the wind, if it's easier for them to just go right there and get out of the wind. But if you're in those areas, those key areas, right in your ditches, if you're in the channel swings, that's where you're going to find most of your bait stacked up right now. The back of the creeks are a lot colder and they're a lot more muddy right now with the drawdown. But as we continue to get outside of the wintertime bite, and within the next, I would say, probably 3 to 4 weeks, they're going to start transitioning again to that spring side. Now, granted, it could be a little bit longer, but that's probably where we're at. So we've got a little while longer of being able to drop a jig and spoon on them, because that's where we're seeing them, in that 30 to 40 foot range. What you want to look for is your main points that have fairly good drop-offs, or your channel swings that have good drop-offs right on each side. And of course, if you get in those much narrower channels that have deeper pockets, that's where they're gonna kind of work those areas. And what I consider, if you're going around a channel swing, you kind of have a bowl almost of where they're gonna circle, and that's a good area for them to kind of stack up, and they're gonna work those areas and feed when they want to feed and then back off. So if you're headed out there, a couple of baits that I'll tell you to take. A jig and spoon is going to be your best bet right now, getting on top of them in 30 to 40 foot of water to catch them. Jerkbait is always great for this time of year, and then also an umbrella rig. If you like just trolling a line, that's a great way to catch them. So thank you guys for checking out Fish North Georgia. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching the guide here at Fish North Georgia. Our mission is to build a community of anglers to give you the best and latest information to make your day on the water more successful. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, click the bell so you'll be notified of any future content. Make sure you check us out at fishnorthgeorgia.com, where we carry a large variety of bait manufacturers from here in the North Georgia area. So we appreciate you being part of our community, and we'll see you soon.